Then we'll just get into this really quick.
Hi, everybody. This is Planet Earth here. I wanted to talk to you guys today about these lights here, these police lights here that they have in San Antonio. The bar lights, they're too bright. And Happy New Year, by the way, guys. It's 3 hours. It's a little bit less than 3 hours now. These lights on these bars are too bright. And I saw someone seizuring out on these light bars here. They're too bright. Ooh. Fuck.
All right, so I gave you a little bit of, medical information at the beginning, just a little narrative, and then a video that someone filmed in their car to point out what we all know. This is a video, this is a call-in video that one of my members, who's a paid member, wanted me to answer a question about, and it's about whether or not you can sue the police for causing epileptic seizures using those flashing police lights. Let me just kick it off really quick and we'll get it started.
To another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel.
All right. So, hey, it's really good seeing you guys. I've got the sort of the 10 o'clock shadow, little Viking beard growing in. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Let me just take a look over in the sidebar. So I am Mike Eline. I am a California and Texas personal injury lawyer, but I also have a background in appellate law and criminal defense. And of course, I do civil rights law, and that's probably why most of you are here today, because of my experience suing law enforcement. Now, I want to thank, obviously, Jody Shiloh for showing up as usual. Let me get my sound squared away here. Hopefully it won't turn off on us. Hopefully we've got good audio. I want to thank Jody for showing up. Alan, I want to thank you for showing up too. Alan Hubbs, and the classic one, as usual, Chevy, thank you for showing up. Give me a bunch of OTVOs. Give me a bunch of ones if you want a free chili. And I hope you guys had an opportunity to see our Nevada judges the other day, where a Nevada criminal defense attorney came out and said, well, yeah, absolutely, he shouldn't have been convicted. And then, of course, you had a pro-cop lawyer, apparently, who, I guess the guy who trained Officer Bork, also say that he shouldn't have been convicted, apparently, and that the 21-foot rule thing is basically a joke. So take a look at that if you want. That's pretty interesting. That's about the 10th lawyer now who is concurred with me that he was wrongly convicted. The sad part is we know that there was not a proper appellate record made, so that would be the major strike in a win there for Chili DeCastro of Delete Laws. Give me a bunch of ones for Chili if you want a free chili, and get him back out there on the roads doing the OTVO JBTP thing. Yeah, give it to me, guys. Good seeing you, Brick. And good seeing you too, BZ Watchdog. Thanks for all the ones, guys. So I want to go ahead and finish playing this video because I thought it was pretty cool. And then again, we're here to talk about whether or not police lights, flashing lights from police cars, can have seizures. And if they do, can you sue the police? And I'm going to break it down for you, because the answer is yes, you can, but not always. And that's just how it is in law. But let's go ahead and take a look-see here.
Yeah, those light bars are too bright, especially when they have them flashing faster than this. It's even worse. Not only can you get their attention, but damn, these things are bright. Oh, hell no.
She's not liking that.
Too bright.
So she's complaining about the brightness, but it's really about the
these
flash.
These things are like, they're so bright. They are so bright. And it's not even freaking funny, man.
Put it in the comments if you've had similar problems with the bright police lights.
These things are brighter than they should be.
Even if you're not epileptic or anything like that, just tell me if those lights. I know most of my female clients seem to be more sensitive to lights and noises, and I found that growing up with my mom
Oh,
too.
I'm not gonna look. I'm not even. I can't even look at these goddamn things. They're so bright. Anybody else get annoyed at these bright lights on the police cruisers? Because damn.
Yeah, I really appreciate having all these cool videos to look at too. It's just really awesome. So let me see if I've got another one for you that I want to play, which is pretty cool. And then we'll get into it in a minute here. Let me add that bad chicken to the stage. This thing over here. I want you to learn a little bit about epilepsy. This is a British video. It's actually a police training video. Give me 1 second here. This is actually a police training video from the UK. It's a little dated, but it's pretty cool. And the idea is that when people have epileptic seizures, they get a little violent sometimes because they're trying to protect themselves. Thank you, BZ. I'm going to get right to your super chat, but I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it if I don't tell you guys now, because I'm getting older now, guys. But so I've had a couple of clients who are people who suffer from seizures and epilepsy. And one of them did get pulled over in a traffic stop years ago. He actually didn't get pulled over. He was pulled over having a seizure. And the cop thought he was on drugs. And the guy was having a seizure. He couldn't talk. The cop pulls him out of the car, slams him on the ground as he's frothing at the mouth, and proceeds to beat the shit out of him and puts him in torture cuffs. And so we ended up resolving that case. But I just want to tell you that law enforcement often mistake people who are having a seizure with violent people. And that's why I think it's really, really important that police officers have higher IQs than a lot of the ones they've been hiring. And that maybe if they're going to make them peace officers, maybe they teach them about peace. Anyway, give me a bunch of ones if you think peace officers should learn peace. To be a true samurai, you had to live by the code of the samurai. And there's really good books about it. And it's about not just being a warrior, but being an artist, being educated, and all those things. It's all part of, if you're going to be in a martial type of a field, you need to also be a philosopher, know history and all that other stuff, classical education, to be able to deal with people on the street. Like, I feel like my education from being a blue collar guy and having several businesses has helped me become a better lawyer because it helps me identify with my clients. So really quick, I just want to play this. Well, hold on a minute. Let me give BZ his due. Hey, BZ, out freaking standing. He got, okay, so BZ has been working on getting public records from the Nevada Citizens Overwatch. And basically that is a BS sounding situation where the government creates an organization to police itself, and then it rubber stamps the decisions of the police internal affairs. And now we have, but it did make public records. It did allow the investigations to become public. The problem is the police department and IA tries to use the public records request objections like, oh no, it's still under investigation, even if it hasn't been, because we know police lie all the time because the Supreme Court said they can lie. And that's another reason why people hate police so much, because why would you trust an organization that allows its people to lie to you? And so there's a lot of people who are disgusted with the Supreme Court for saying it's okay for the police to lie. And put a bunch of ones in the sidebar if you think that it's disgusting that our peace officers have the right to lie to us. And give me a bunch of ones if you think that that leads to distrust in our government. And thinking about that, like, I want critical thinkers in my group. So give me a bunch of ones if you're a critical thinker. If you are a group thinker, go to Harvard or Columbia University or one of these $200,000 a year colleges and dye your hair purple. But if you're a critical thinker, come here to my channel and I'll teach you the law. I'll teach you the history of the law and the common law and the traditions of this country. Now, BZ Watchdog and I have been working on this project together where we're helping each other, because I don't ever think that I'm just like teaching people. I'm learning too. And so BZ Watchdog, being a former Marine, we click and we have that can-do mentality. And he's out there hustling, learning about how to do these records requests, cutting his teeth on the U.S. Post Office and these interjurisdictional agreements. And then my investigative journalism a few days ago if you look at the Delete Laws the Delete Laws YouTube channel, you will see I did a video about this citizen review board and how cops are just getting off and nothing's happening. And I covered a story about a cop who was trying to have his wife assassinated, and the Nevada police tried to cover up that information. And I gave out some props to an investigative journalist out here in Nevada who I've been tracking. And I'm just really proud of these guys for exposing corruption and putting their lives at risk, because it's a dangerous PD you don't want to mess with, the Nevada police, man. These are dangerous individuals. So let's get into this a little bit more. So it says here somebody can't hear. Ghostman says Mike can't hear. Hopefully somebody can. Hopefully, give me some ones if you can hear me. Give me twos if you can't, guys. Oh my gosh, thank you, April Rain. I really appreciate it. I got a super sticker. Thanks, April. So it's very kind of all my guests. And so let me just give you guys some love before I get into the rest of the story. So one of the things that I really like doing, Let's OTVO, thanks, brother. My guests are people who really, I don't have millions of people coming into the chat. Most of my audience are people that are probably like between 30 and 60 years old. And they're people who, are traditional God-fearing Americans, pledge allegiance to the flag. They love their common law history and traditions, and they believe in honor and all those things that a lot of our parents taught us about, or that we learned from John Wayne movies when we were growing up, or Daniel Boone or Davy Crockett. So those are my people, and I'm out here to help them learn and reclaim their rights from the administrative state that is slowly eroding away all of our rights and brainwashing our children and turning us all into 15-minute morons. So that's what I want to do, is save America by educating other people to save themselves. The best safety net you can have is an intelligent mind. The best social safety net is a brain. So let's get into it. So thanks, Mikey B, for your comments. Obviously, as a lawyer, I don't want to use bad vernacular if I can avoid it. Sometimes I lose my temper, but I appreciate all your comments, and you have the right to definitely say and think what you want. And Ghost Man, I appreciate you coming out. Hey, man, what's going on, Brick? Yeah. Now let's take a look here. Dawood, by the way, is somebody who's benefited from my association with Alan Beck. And as you guys know, Alan Beck, I really look up to him a lot. He's also a Marine, and he's one of the best Second and First Amendment appellate attorneys in the country. And he actually helped Dawood, through one of his connections, reclaim his Second Amendment rights back from the government, which I thought was really impressive. And I really want to thank Dawood for telling everybody in the channel, because we're not just putting out a bunch of garbage material for likes and shares. We're actually trying to make change, trying to help people. And as most of you guys know, I do personal injury law, and you don't see me posting stories about accidents or trying to get cases for car crashes or any of that. So I do this in association with my kids. I'm teaching them how to be entrepreneurs, and at the same time teaching them about American history, common law, and the law. And so all of us working together, you're helping me educate them, and in turn, they're helping me educate you. So it's a really cool thing, and you're benefiting from over 20 years of legal experience that I have, including as a paralegal and a law clerk and a file clerk, as an extern at the Court of Appeal, as an extern at the prosecutor's office for almost 2 years, doing opposing motions to suppress and 1538.5s. That's what we call them, 1538.5s. So you're getting that experience. And so today we're going to get into a little bit about Dawood, what Dawood has to say. He's talking about how they refused to release the info to his attorney in a Freedom of Information Act request. Well, first of all, Dawood, we need to have you sit down and talk with BZ, because a lot of people don't understand there's a difference between FOIA, which is federal, and then the state information requests. And even sometimes local cities are going to want you to request it directly through their agency, or counties. So we need to definitely have probably another live that educates you all who want to learn about that more. Maybe we can do a sit down with BZ when he has some free time. So let's move on really quick. probably BZ found some great information about Officer Bork. Now, we discovered that there are at least 900 internal affairs referrals that went to the Citizen Review Board, and only like 8 of them got looked at. But those 900 records are now public. But one of the ways that Nevada is obfuscating, or the Vegas PD is obfuscating and making it difficult, is they're trying to charge these outrageous amounts of money for body cam footage. And so like in the, $400, $500, $600 ranges. So there's no way you can get these records unless you have financial backing. So one of the things that I'm asking for, if there is anybody out there who's strapped or who is an activist, please reach out to me if you're interested in making some serious change. I think that we can get these records, and I think that we can also get the costs down on these records. I think that they're confiscatory prices that they're charging to get body cam footage. And this whole body cam thing has just turned out to be a big joke. The way that the police departments and the body cam custodians are just erasing stuff and deleting stuff. It's a joke. I mean, people need to wake up, man. You can't have the government investigating itself. It just doesn't work, guys. Come on. So let's just take a look here. Katie Fry, thank you for coming out. And Age Go, thanks for coming out. Mikey B again. C-Mac, hey, I'm freaking standing, C-Mac. So, guys, this if this is who I think it is, this is a former master gunnery sergeant, and we did a tour of Camp Pendleton together. He took me back to the 52 area, and I got to relive some really cool memories, the best times of my life. That's where I really formed myself as a young man and as a warrior, because in my culture and in many other cultures, you don't become a man until you first become a warrior. And so it was really an amazing thing. And so C-Mac got out, and he's a combat vet. I think he was Air Wing. So everybody give C-Mac a bunch of ones. Thanks for coming out, C-Mac. I really appreciate you coming in to say hi. And C-Mac is also a big Second Amendment supporter. And I think he has this really badass Jeep. And man, I'd love to go shooting with you sometime, brother. We definitely need to do that. Last time it was just really cool. I had my Maserati, and when I came into the base, this Lance Corporal was at the guard gate. He's like, "What the hell kind of car is that?" And he's like, and he asked me if I had any weapons, and I said yes. And he opened up the trunk, and I got a Benelli M4 that's like all tricked out, like the one he was carrying, but custom, right? Terran Tactical logo on the side, bunch of M4s and a Glock 21, Glock 19, a Glock 34 with all custom Terran Tactical. And I revved up my motor for the Lance Cooley and all the MPs, and it was just super fun. That brought back some great memories. Thanks, C-Mac. I hope you stick around, C-Mac, and make sure to like and subscribe and get your other Marine brothers over here to watch me, because I'm really starting to take off with the Patriot crowd. And there are a lot of people now. I think that we're in a position where we can at least get some help in San Diego to get the West Coast Veterans Act passed, which is going to be just like the PACT Act, where we are getting those PACT Act benefits to the West Coast Marines, especially the air wingers like Tustin, MCASH helicopter, as well as El Toro, both Superfund sites, by the way. And as you guys know, my father recently passed away from Agent Orange, where he was exposed at Camp Lejeune, as well as in Vietnam. He was an 0848. He was there 67, 68, and 69, and he was at Khe Sanh during the Tet Offensive. He was also at Con Thien, Dong Ha, Da Nang, Gio Lin, Rock Pile, all the different hills. He was a really legit Marine, super proud of my Marine Corps heritage. So thank you again, C-Mac, for joining us. And let's get down. Tom Shaw, thanks for coming in. And let me see here. And April Rain, I really appreciate you always supporting me and my family, and it really means a lot. Willie B, thanks for coming out. And Let's OTVO. And looks like there's a little battle going on the sidebar. I don't want to get too much into it. That's right. So the classic one says, Michael, the government likes to charge a bundle to access those records. And that's the problem, guys, is they just charge you an arm and a leg. There's no transparency. And then when guys like Chile come out and they try to force transparency, the government doesn't like it. They like their good old boy network. They like their guaranteed taxpayer funded everything, guaranteed eat at the casinos, eat at, get a room at the penthouse if you're officer of the month. They love all that. They love providing security at triple time or whatever they charge for UFC fights and all this stuff. But us, the little guy, when it comes to us, if one of our family members gets in a problem, they don't get off, but their family members always find a way to get off, don't they? Think about that. I mean, think about this two-tier justice system that we have. I did a video the other day sort of comparing these strong, brash personalities and how anybody who's actually capable of making change, the administrative state goes after them, like the CIA, the FBI, all these radicalized judgeships back east. And so we see that happening in real time right now. A lot of people are saying that our own government's been weaponized against us if we're not on the right political party. We saw that with social media, how they went after people who are not far left and took down their social media accounts for discussing a true story about the Hunter Biden laptop. So we see it happening in real time. So let's see here. So guys, everybody, I want you to pay attention instead of getting in big battles on the sidebar. We're all here because we care about America and we love America. So let's take a look here. Let's get into my slideshow, the Eline family slideshow. So can I sue the cops for patrol light bar cause seizures? Okay, so let's look and see. So police lights and seizures are basically, it's based on frequency, vibration, and things like that. And most commonly, it's between 10 and 20 hertz, and that can disrupt normal brain activity. And so I made my sort of fame and fortune as a brain injury lawyer. That's really where motorcycle accidents and brain injuries. So I'm an expert when it comes to the brain. And basically, in a nutshell, the brain is like a really powerful computer. And if you have a really powerful computer and you drop it on the ground, and then you plug it back in, you'll notice that it just doesn't seem to run the same again. And if you throw it down a little bit harder, it may make even more noises, and eventually it just won't work. And that's the best way I can explain a brain injury. So even what they call a mild traumatic brain injury, it doesn't mean that it's mild. It just means on the trauma scale, it's mild. Okay, it's still traumatic. So I hope that makes sense. Give me a bunch of ones if you can understand that. And so God made all of us different. And some say that exposure to certain chemicals and vaccines and things like that can actually onset epilepsy and make it more pronounced in people. And then, of course, we know that even before all those things occurred, we had Julius Caesar who would have seizures, right? I think he was famous for seizures and the cesarean section, if I recall properly, but I'm not totally 100% on that one. So anyways, basically, it can disrupt normal brain activity. And as I discussed earlier, if you're having a seizure, you're naturally going to you're going to ball up, right? Almost like you're going to be fighting. You're going to be balled up. And you may even be lashing out, and you might be frothing at the mouth. And so for most law enforcement officers, unless they have really good training, they may assume that is a violent person and want to tase them or something. And that could cause their death at that point because their system's already on overload. They're swallowing their tongue. So I just want you guys to know that's why I'm sympathetic to a lot of the things that Chile says. I mean, pulling people over for no registration and then shooting them. I mean, think about that. Like, why not just send them a ticket if they don't have a registration? Find another way. Send a drone after them. Figure out another way than just, initiating contact, because when you initiate contact, things can go wrong, especially because so many people are terrified of the police. You got to understand, a lot of people are terrified of cops. So that might even trigger a seizure. But here, what we're here to do is to talk about the police lights. And yes, they could trigger a seizure. And one of my guests the other day actually asked me to do some research about it, and I'll let him come forward if he wants to or not. talk about his particular case. But the idea is, if in fact this did cause arguendo or someone to have a seizure, could you sue the police for it? Because sometimes these seizures are so bad that they'll cause you to have like permanent limb damage, paralyzed part of your face. I mean, this is no joke. It's like a stroke. So I want people to think about that. No joke, no joke. Give me a bunch of ones if you understand that seizures are no joke. And the idea is, and we're going to get into this, but if you could sue the cops, it's going to be because of the circumstances and, obviously the jurisdiction, if they're going to, because some of them may go along with what you're telling them and turn off their damn lights, right? But other ones may want to push the envelope. And so I'm going to show you. Yeah, James. Hey, man. Good seeing you. It is. It's all sad. All this crazy stuff. All right. So, yeah, Kevin. Okay. So this is relevant. So, yeah, I think they're called grand mal seizures, but some people call them grandma. I get it. I think it's called grand mal, GRANMAL, I think. It's been a while since I've worked on one of these types of cases, but they're bad, man. And yeah, from like Kevin says, they're from really bad blinking lights. And so, yeah, you could sue, but it depends. And so it's mainly going to depend. So this is like another educational moment for all my viewers. So it's almost always going to be on actual or constructive notice, because if you tell a cop, hey, look, man, I'm having a seizure. I'm going to have one from those lights. They're triggering me. Can you please help me out here? You just pulled me over, right? So you may have to give up your Fifth Amendment right to stay alive in that instance. And then in that case, the law enforcement officer, their department policy, and of course, just being a good human, would dictate that they would provide a reasonable accommodation. And that's sort of the language that we use as lawyers. Did the officer, would an objectively reasonable officer have done this or not? Would they have not provided reasonable accommodations? And what would those accommodations have been? Well, in this case, it could have been just turning off or adjusting the blinking, or turning the lights off altogether, or maybe just have a different light, or maybe just solid lights instead of flashing. You just have to figure it out. Remove the person from where the lights are. As a cop, you may have to just make a judgment call that you understand epilepsy, and you're going to turn your lights off and figure out another way to provide a warning. Maybe throw out some of those light sticks on the ground where they're not flashing and causing this distraction. I don't know. Put it in the comments if you saw the movie The Accountant, and there was a scene where he would put the flashing lights on and listen to loud music, and that was because he was trying to master his ability to not get flipped out. And we know a lot of autistics also have adverse reactions to flashing lights, and a lot of kids have them. We've done some cases involving video games that we've worked on as co-counsel, where the video games cause kids to have seizures. And I'm also involved in a group that sells blue light glasses that protect your, like these, they protect your, from the computer blue light, because you can get problems with your eyes. You can develop all kinds of eye diseases. So I recommend that you wear blue light protection, or get a special lamination type thing for your computer screens. Okay, so let me just look over on the sidebar. Is there anybody that yeah, Ben Affleck. That's right, Bruce. And I don't see C-Mac anymore. I guess he left, but what a cool dude, man. That guy got to serve in combat, and he's still alive. And I think he was also a drill instructor, a senior drill instructor. This guy was legit, man. That was a real honor. He gave me a tour of the base. We went and saw, he drove me up to Edson Range, and there were some recruits. I don't know that they were snapping in, but they were just doing some close order drill on their sea bags right outside the barracks there. And I was taking pictures with my phone, and this super skinny staff sergeant and he was wearing deserts. He walks over, and and C-Mac's much taller and bigger than this dude. And I was yoked, like I could have probably broke this senior in half. And so I'm going to need you to delete those photos, sir. So I just pretended like I deleted them, but I still got the pictures. And C-Mac was laughing because he was like, this is a public area. You can take pictures. But neither one of us told him that we were prior service, but I think he could kind of tell because, I looked kind of squared away with the belt and the tucked in shirt and, looked pretty good. So anyways, that was kind of fun. So anyways, let's get back on track here. Now, what you could try and do is if you did give the cops proper notice and told them, you could try to argue that the cops violated the Americans with Disabilities Act by failing to make a reasonable accommodation. And that's an argument that we've made. And so the way this works, guys, is you don't file every case. You're going to settle most of them. And you just front load them by doing all your research and your investigations up front. And as you're doing that, you can do what's called the demand letter, and you make these demands. In this case, you have to do a government claim within 6 months of notice, and you try to bring them to the negotiating table. And that's really hard to do with a government agency. But when it comes to things like epilepsy or racial things, they're very happy to try and settle quickly. Trust me. They don't want riots and problems. Now, there are some examples in modern case law that touch on this very subject. One of them is Lynn versus City of Indianapolis, where the plaintiffs suffered from epilepsy, and there was an alleged violation of Title II during an arrest while having a seizure. And I think some of you have seen the YouTube video. So it's pretty dramatic the way that some of these cops are just really jerks, the way they treat these people. I mean, if you have people in your family who are suffering from, some kind of a special needs situation, or, they've got something going on, you know what I'm talking about. It just really makes you sick to your stomach, right? Because it's like, they're just humans and we're all here for a very short period of time. It's not like we're going to be here forever. You might as well try and be kind to people, right? Anyways, it says similarly in Sanders versus the City of San Angelo, the plaintiff brought forward issues related to epilepsy during an arrest. These cases highlight the need for law enforcement to adequately accommodate individuals with disabilities. And I agree, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to be a sheepdog and look after these people. If you're going to become a cop, then, then try to be a sheepdog and not just like be a sheep with a gun, listening to whatever your primary directives are. Do it the right thing. So anyways, you could also bring a civil rights claim. You could try to sue under Title 42, Section 1983, and you could weave in there that it led to excessive force. You having the seizure from the light bar flashing made them think that you were combative because you were having a seizure and flailing all over the place, and because of that, you got beat down. You might even prove that they have a history of doing this. You could bring some kind of a Monell type of a claim. So anyways, I hope that sort of gave you a little bit of insight, and I hope I did you justice. My member who asked me, oh, look at this, BZ Watchdog. Hold on a minute. They can be liable if detained person. That's true. Okay, so, and that's where we were going to get into, and I think he's right. So the police can be liable sometimes, and sometimes they can't. And a lot of it also has to do with the way that the court is and the way that the jury is. And that's why I always try and resolve the case before it gets before a judge. You don't want a judge deciding your case. You want to present a strong enough case to where the parties feel that it's in the best interest of themselves to resolve it. And that's what you want, guys. And that's why you front load and you do a good job. And that's why I always try and tell BZ to build your evidence, get all the data, get all the addresses, get the party names, know where everybody is, find out about any jurisdictional differences, do your research, know your case better than anyone, and you'll always win. Now, oh my gosh, look at this. Brett, I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't even know that there's that many people that watch me, but man, I really appreciate another 10 memberships. Gosh, Brett, you guys are My audio still keeps going out sometimes, but so so Brett, we're going to talk a little bit about what BZ said. So basically what he's saying is, if the cops have notice that you have epilepsy and that those lights are going to maybe cause you a seizure, then for sure some kind of a duty is going to arise. Because why? Because they have you in their custody. So that is one of the few times where law enforcement has somewhat of a duty to protect people, is when they have you in custody, because you are helpless. You're basically at their will. You are there, and at that moment in time, they control you. And so, because of that, the courts have found that that is one of the very few times that the police actually have a duty to protect you. And so, if they have knowledge that you're somebody who's going to have a seizure or is having a seizure, or reasonably should know that it's a seizure and not you being combative, then you have the basis, the foundations of a lawsuit against law enforcement. Now, whether or not it's going to withstand a directed verdict, or it's going to withstand a 12B6 if it goes federal, or a summary judgment, or whatever it might be, whatever court or jurisdiction that you're in, that's going to be based to a large degree on the jurisdiction, the venue, the courts, and the parties and the people. And I would say 99% of the case is a sympathetic client. Always remember that. If you come off combative and like a jerk in your videos and your auditing videos, most of the people in the jury are going to think you're a jerk. And even though they may find in your favor, they may award you so little money that you'll end up still owing money for, the use of force experts or whoever you brought in on your case. Now, in this particular case, this is a little outside the auditing realm, and this is inside more the somebody who's suffering from a serious disability. And in this case, I'm sure we can all agree that being triggered by police lights that could cause you to have seizures is a problem. Now, there are some tort law rules that say that stuff like this is so one-off that it shouldn't be considered, because it is so one-off, like almost like a trivial defect, for lack of a better word. But there is another body of case law which is still under development, which I've shown you a few cases that says that yes, it's a compensable type of claim. So let me just look over in the sidebar. I don't want to be rude, Brett, or anybody. Al my retina, Willie B says. So grand mal seizures, that's right. Or you could have clonic tonic or petit mal. They come in a variety. Yeah. So Jessica, look, I really appreciate it. It's always the ladies too that know this stuff, and that's something that you guys need to think about. I mean, they really, wow, I'm really impressed. So there's all kinds of different seizures, and they're all terrible. And if you've got someone in your family, or you're a mom with kids who has these things, or have a sibling, you know what they are. And I would venture to say she knows someone, probably someone in her family, who suffers this, and it's really scary, and I've been around, I've had to pull someone's tongue out of their throat before, who was having a seizure. And I mean, it'll give you, definitely it gives you memories, that's for sure. So let me see here. So Bruce R, I really appreciate you hanging out, and everybody being so civil and caring and loving in the sidebar. Hey, Miss Constitutional Rights. Yeah. Well, I think Miss Constitutional Rights is still a mod. If not, we need to get her back her position immediately. And hit that like and subscribe button. So everybody, everybody give me a bunch of ones to welcome back Miss Constitutional Rights. I think she's super awesome. I've always thought she was. I've never changed my position on that. The enemy of my friend is my friend. Is that how they say it? Yeah. Hey, let's go. Yeah. Hello, Eline and Chad. Let's go. Let's OTVO. So guys, by the way, I don't have any really urgent updates from you from the dungeon. Hopefully this weekend I'll be able to do a show and kind of share some stuff that we're working on. But in the meantime, you've gotten an opportunity to learn a little bit about photosensitivity, and just know that there are people around us in our group who suffer from epileptic type situations, and that it can become deadly, and it can absolutely alter your life, and it could be triggered by something like these artificial flashing police lights. And some departments are aware that these things cause trouble, and they haven't done anything really to stop it. So all I can say is that it's one of the most common neurological disorders in the world, and there's over 50 million people in the world that have it. And this particular type of epilepsy is called photosensitive epilepsy. And they also, the acronym is PSE, and it's a reflex epilepsy. So, and about 40% of the people only have PSE. In other words, it only gets triggered by the lights, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to break this down for you really quick, because I don't want to bore people too much, but I just want you to know that it's out there, and they can cause absent seizures, myoclonic seizures, generalized tonic-clonic seizures, and combination seizures. And you can hold on a second. I don't know how long I've been off, but hopefully you heard some of what I had to say. Just the different types of seizures and whatnot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this. Yeah. Yeah, 5x5. Oh man, I hate that sometimes. I'll just like, so I wish that there was somebody who could just come over here and fix this dag nab freaking doggone audio. But really quick, I just want to play this video for you guys because I think it's really good, and it will kind of give you a little bit of edumacation that I can't really do.
And there are at least 40 different seizure types. It's possible for people to have more than one seizure type. The most common seizure is called a tonic-clonic seizure. This is where the person loses consciousness and falls to the ground convulsing. About 60% of people with epilepsy have this type of seizure. The second most common type of seizure is a focal or partial seizure. Zoe is having a focal seizure. This may involve altered consciousness. It's much more difficult to recognize than the tonic-clonic one. About 20% of people with epilepsy have this type of seizure. The first aid required for these seizure types is different. This film will show you how to recognize both types of seizures, what can sometimes happen during or after a seizure, and the appropriate first aid. Focal seizures. In the last film, we saw Zoe having a focal seizure. Zoe hadn't yet felt able to tell her friends about her epilepsy, so they didn't understand what was happening. A focal seizure is when a small part of the brain is affected. The person doesn't convulse and may be able to walk, but may not be aware of what's going on around them. The person may have repeated movements.
So there's so many of them, and the video will take us an hour to watch every single one of them and talk about all of them, but you get the idea. Like, it could just be something as little as this, but to that, an officer might think that, oh, this person's on meth, this person might have a knife or a gun, they're acting crazy. So I just want you to think about that, like how dangerous it could be when you misinterpret people, and how dangerous it can just be to be in that position where you're choosing between life and death. I mean, you're strapped, and you're geared up, you've been eating donuts all day, drinking coffee, you got to make it home safe. That's the kind of stuff that worries me about people, like, especially you guys with family members out there who might be one of these people who might have a seizure. So think about that. Look, I wouldn't have even talked about this, but one of our members brought it up to me. They wanted me to do a video about this. So the bottom line is, yes, you can sue law enforcement for having seizures related to these types of things, but there's going to be statute of limitations issues for number one. There's going to be notice issues. You've got to prove that the LEO knew or should have known that you're one of these people who could have had or was having a seizure, and it was because of the lights. There's a threshold, an evidentiary threshold that proves to be a very difficult burden in most cases. So I want you all to consider this before you get on this high horse that you're going to be able to just immediately sue. Because anybody can sue for anything, but you still face motions to dismiss, demurs, whatever it might be, motions to strike, depending on the jurisdiction that you're in. So because of this, you have to have a very strong case, and it's going to be based on the evidentiary elements that you're going to need to meet, as I already said. And assuming arguendo, you can break through those and withstand these early motions and move forward on the facts, then you're still going to have to show to a jury, right, or a court, however it goes down, that these lights and them not doing something about it is what caused you to have the seizure, or that maybe the department as a whole knew that this particular type of light could cause seizures based upon, remember I showed you the Hertz earlier, the Hertz score that generally causes these types of seizures. So you could make an argument that the police department was using this particular Hertz knowing that it could harm people, or reasonably knowing. You could also argue that the manufacturer should not have been producing lights at this particular frequency, right? Because they should know, they knew or should have known that it could cause a certain group, and a sizable group, not just a few people. And I showed you earlier, there's a lot of people that this could affect. So I want you all to think about that. So, I'm a real lawyer and I'm just throwing some ideas out there to you, but I know that some of the people in my audience might be lawyers too. And I want you to share what you think in the sidebar, because I think that we could, it's like iron sharpening iron. Maybe we can come up with some other theories. But if you know someone who suffered a seizure as a result of police contact or the police lights or video games, that's a common one. You'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's so obscure that people think that you're crazy if you even talk about it. So I feel like this was a really cool topic to talk about. And I'm hoping that y'all will share this and like and subscribe and do all that. Hit that like and subscribe button, and that you guys are still sending chili stuff to the commissary. Make sure, to help them out so we can buy, whatever it is that they have there, like their ramen or, it's not much, but anything's better than the chow hall food, right? I mean, come on. Now, also, Mama Lion says THC helps with seizures. Oh my gosh, that's too bad. I didn't know. Yeah. So Mama Lion says that THC helps with seizures, and I've heard that before. I know that it helps people with glaucoma as well. For sure, like people that smoke weed, allegedly it helps their glaucoma, and that's been known for a long time. And I've seen people where their eyes are almost popping out of their head and they take a few hits off of a joint and their eyes go back to normal. So does anybody know what I'm talking about, or am I just sounding like a total crazy person? So anyways, happy Friday, by the way. And I really appreciate everybody coming and joining me. Miss Constitutional Rights, we're glad to have you back. And Michael J. Quintana, we're glad to have you back as well. And I just want everybody to get along, because even if it's a loose confederation, it seems like most of us are similarly minded and we care about our country, and that's where we should keep our focus. And none of us are supermen or superwomen, so we're not all going to be able to do everything for everyone. We can't all be all things to all people, but we can act with one voice on certain things that really matter. So give me a bunch of OTVOs. That's something that matters, right? Yeah. So let me take a look over here. So yeah, Forrest Goodwin's talking about it. Yeah, very high frequency lights. Now listen, I did an article several years ago about this French farmer, and I guess their cows were dying or not able to reproduce anymore. And they found that it was due to like this 4 or 5G tower that had just been set up. And I'm seeing these big 4 and 5G towers going up everywhere. And, I've done some research on this stuff. Put it in the comments if you're scared about that stuff being around you and your family, those big towers. I mean, another reason to homestead, right? To get away from all this, like, I mean, could you imagine like having like this big radar dish flying around your, because we know that stuff is cancerous, those radar dishes, right? Now imagine having these like 5G towers just spewing out all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's to me it's scary. I don't know. I think the Starlink thing is a better idea. I don't know. What do you guys think? You tell me. Now, does anybody have any comments in the sidebar about bringing a potential lawsuit, and then of course what the damages might be? For example, if you have a seizure and you can prove that it was caused by the light bar and all that, well, what kind of damages could you get? Well, typically there's special damages and general damages. So your special damages are going to be your economic losses, and your general damages are going to be things like pain and suffering. Your general damages are your intangible damages. They're things that you can't really touch or feel. They're intangible, like pain and suffering, right? And so those are the types of damages. And then sometimes you can get punitive damages, but that's rare, and that requires a clear and convincing evidence standard. Whereas your traditional damages are going to be based on a preponderance of the evidence, which is a much more easier burden to meet. And so that's for like a personal injury case, right? Now, for fraud and things like that, you're gonna have that higher burden, that clear and convincing, just like punitives. So hard to get, hard to uphold too. Punitive damages awards. I think typically it's the max you're going to get is about 9 times the actual damages award. I think that if you were going to put a multiplier, that's what it would be limited to. I think that was the Gore case. Put it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. I haven't researched punitive damages in a long time. So let's take a look here. Bad cops, what you gonna do? So basically those are the types of damages that you would typically be able to get. And then of course, now if someone died from an epileptic seizure, and it was like your husband or your wife or one of your kids, or vice versa, the parents of one of the kids. Let's say your dad's a famous surgeon, and all of a sudden his epilepsy is triggered at a traffic stop after he tells the police that he has epilepsy and that the lights are causing him to have a seizure, and he's starting to do this, right? He's making furtive movements that something's clearly wrong. But the law enforcement officer instead wants to assert his dominance and try to put him in torture cuffs, doesn't believe him, even though the guy clearly isn't a threat. I mean, the guy's, you can tell he's a typical professional, probably driving let's say he's driving an older model Benz, right? He's not a non-threatening guy telling the officer, look, I'm having a seizure. Your lights are triggering it. I'm a surgeon. Please help me. Please turn off your lights. I promise I'm not a threat to you. Right. But instead the officer wants to put him in custody, spin him around, cause trouble, shoot him with the, what do they call that thing? The taser thing. And all that does is make the seizure trigger harder, and the guy dies. Now there's a wrongful death case. You've got it on tape. So the son sues for the loss of income, the loss of consortium, love, affection. He lost his dad. It's a big deal, right? So think about that. So that's what a wrongful death claim would be. And then the next thing you could do is, as a plaintiff, as a survivor, would be to enforce a survivor's action. And that would allow you to recover the pain and suffering damages that the decedent suffered, but it would be through the estate. So you'd have to set up a conservatorship or a trust or an estate. So everybody, make sure to like and subscribe and save this stuff, because you're getting a lot of information that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And it's really important that I want you to understand this, because if you really want to learn the law, I'll teach it to you, but I don't want to keep telling you it over and over again. You know what I mean? Because we'll do different factual scenarios, but Now you get an idea of what the damages you could seek. So you would seek the economic specials, for the loss of income, future income, past income, present income, right? The loss of then the other things, affection, the consortium, and that one, and then in the other part of the action, you would be able to recapture the decedent's pain and suffering up until the time of death. So that's a big one. If the decedent knows they're dying and they're convulsing away and they're seeing their life flash before their eyes, that's a big pain component that the estate could potentially recapture through the survivor's estate. I'm hoping all this is making sense, because honestly, nobody ever told me any of this stuff when I was not a lawyer. And so I like to use these examples when one of my members says, hey, do this story. So now what I need from you guys is another like video or an example. Somebody send me something that you'd like me to cover. So if it's a member that has a legal issue that it's somewhat in my realm that I can help with, I can do a little thing about it. But this particular one kind of hit home with me because I really, I know there's people out there with special needs kids, a lot of autism, a lot of people like Robert Kennedy are saying that it's associated with childhood VACCINESs, and we're not even allowed to say the words because we could be banned. That tells you how much power certain companies have to enforce what truth and falsity is. And that's a scary thought right there. So, I'm up in the air about anything like that. I don't want any trouble, guys. I just want to be able to share information with you that about your rights and about the law, and everything else. You can figure it out for yourselves, because I'll arm you with the tools to help you become a better critical thinker. And that's why I like to use the examples, not just the law, but the critical thinking that goes along with applying the law to a particular set of facts. So in today's example, we got an idea of one of our guys who, potentially could be pulled over, tell the cops that, hey man, like I'm going to have a seizure. And instead they put him in torture cuffs and let him go crazy and almost die from the torture lights. So what do you guys, hey, okay, guys, help me out here. Willie B, Jessica Kyrie, Amazon. Now that we know that the squad car lights or cruiser lights, now that we know that they can cause epileptic type seizures, what should we call them? Torture lights? Somebody in the sidebar, help me out. I mean, misconstitutional rights, what should we call them? Torture lights? We got to have a name for them, because now we know that they can lead to seizures and death on the road. And so we got to figure that out. Death strobes, torture lights, dungeon lights. Well, anybody, I mean, help me out. I mean, I'll move on. I'm not getting a whole lot of audience cooperation on the new names, because now we've got torture lights. No, I mean, torture cuffs, terror lights. So, okay, hold on. So James Forbes says we're going to call them terror lights. And I think he means terror with an O, but that's probably an ancient spelling. Because, okay, Amazon says we should call the squad car lights that cause seizures, we should call them double bubbles. And you can see the two bubbles there. That's pretty good. I like that one. Now, UK at to be kitten me wants to call them the seizure system lights. I like that. And then BZ Watchdog calls them lethal lights, which I like. And then, of course, Jessica Kyrie calls them trigger lights. And that's a good one, too. So maybe what we should do Man, I sure wish that I had somebody who knew how to do this stuff better, but I would love it if somebody could help me create a poll. We could put up a poll about, do a live about, well, what do you want to know about business contracts? What do you want to know about partnership agreements? You want to know about, what do you want to, is it commercial contracts? Is going to be like a business, like a corporate type contract, a merger, an acquisition? I mean, give me an idea of what you're talking about, because it's pretty, there's a big vast pool of different types of business law. California Commercial Code, I know it. UCC, international trade, no problem. Now, let me think. Shipping type stuff, goods, some service contracts. I don't really deal a whole lot with partnership disputes. I've done a couple. Don't like to get involved in those bad chickens. You want to try to stay away from stuff like that, unless they've got a big war chest and they pay you a big retainer up front, because you'll get involved in, I found, in personal crusades. But we can talk about stuff. Just let me know what you want to know, and we'll do something, man. For sure, brother. Yeah. So let's look at these names here. The strobe lights. This constitutional rights strobe lights. Yeah, well, they are kind of like strobe lights. Probe lights. Thomas Rockholt calls them probe lights. I love that. You guys rock, man. Yeah, we can do a live about business contracts. I mean, if you're Amazon, I don't know if you're a lawyer, but if you are, you're more than welcome to come on and do a show with me, of course. Now let me, migraine headaches, trigger lights. Yeah, trigger lights. Absolutely. Willie B calls them terrorist lights. Willie B, you're growing on me, dude. I love it. Hey, and by the way, guys, if any of you want to volunteer to help BZ Watchdog get some of these records, doing your own public records requests through Nevada, it'd be cool to find out, what's going on. The one that I found had to do with the department trying to conceal a report of an officer who allegedly, through an AI guy, like or IA, confidential informant, a CI, I guess on tape, this officer allegedly, okay, I mean, but I did a video about it. I've got the evidence, got the motion that was filed by the journalist, that this guy tried to take a hit out on his woman, and they tried to hide that and say it was still under active investigation to prevent this journalist from getting that. And it turned out that no, that wasn't the case, that the investigation was over years ago. And so, that's the kind of stuff that makes people like Chili so much, is because what he's saying always seems to pan out as being factual at the end of the day, that they try to look after their own, the whole thin blue line thing. And average, common, ordinary people, they don't have that same level of protection, and a lot of people don't think that it's fair. So I think that when we see that, we should support transparency. So, I don't see anybody else really out there trying to audit cops, or, trying to film stuff, trying to hold them accountable. I don't really see that happening. Do you? There's not that many people doing it. Not people that are getting enough attention to make a difference. Oh, another one of my users just sent me a text to call them pig beams. That's funny. Boogeyman lights, Amazon said. Boogeyman lights. That's classic. You guys are great. Yeah. What about Texas? Yeah, I don't know. Driver's license, marriage. So here's something that, driver's license, marriage license, fishing license, all contracts, those are what pull us into the jurisdiction. Well, and they also pull us into a lot of unhappiness. I mean, marriage license. Why do you need permission from the government to get married? That's just plain ridiculous. That shouldn't even be something that's licensed to begin with. Fishing license, that's crazy. Yeah. But now I happen to agree that contracts are very important in other areas of life, and you just got to make sure you got your contracts right, and it can keep people happy if you do it right. Yeah, a good contract that's spelled out right is a good thing, but you should try to avoid having to have contracts. Try to do everything yourself, guys. Try to be self-sufficient. Form parallel systems where you work with each other as friends instead of adversaries, and try to help each other. You got a bunch of people right here in the sidebar who are like-minded, and they're all over the country. I got yesterday, there were people I saw that said they were from Florida. I think there was some other ones from up north, like even like Washington, Oregon. I mean, all kinds of cool people all over the place, man. I'm digging it. So, scammer lights, James Forbes says. So, guys, let me know if you guys want to do something. If not, I'm going to try to get hopefully Alan Beck on this weekend and get him to talk a little bit about that Hawaii knife case where he was able to get the rights restored to the Hawaiian people to be able to carry knives and stuff in public. So I thought that would be a really cool story. But make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that like and subscribe button. Look, I can't do these 2 and 3 hour marathons like Chili does. But pirate cannons, look at that. That's funny. Yeah, a lot of people call traffic police road pirates, as I recall. Pirate cannons, that is classic. 5.0 lights. Well, anyways, guys, it's been a little over an hour. I guess it's time for me to sign off for the evening. I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight, and I'll give you an update on Chile as soon as I find out. Hopefully you learned a little bit about whether or not you can recover, whether or not you can sue and recover for police lights causing seizures. And so what we basically learned is you could, but it would be a very, very difficult case to bring. It would require a unique set of facts. It won't always work. So it's going to be case specific, and it's going to be a fact-driven lawsuit. The damages that you recover will be based upon how much damage the seizure caused you, and then other things like pain and suffering, incidentals, and ultimately, if it caused your death, then your estate could recover for your pain and suffering through a survival action, and your survivors could recover on their own through a wrongful death action for things like loss of consortium and love and affection and things like that. Sex, if it's your wife or if it's your husband, wife type thing. That's consortium damages. So hopefully you guys got it all down. Yeah, you guys are welcome too. Willie B calls it a pig signal. Yeah, ciao for now, Michael. Have a blessed evening, everybody. Violation lights, Brick Jonesy. All right, guys. So I guess that's going to be it for tonight, man. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because you never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die.